Imagine a world where chaos failed, where dragons still herald the morning with their titanic songs and continue their dance upon this stage we call Earth. A world of fire-walking giants, majestic lords of the skies, and oceanic leviathans. A world where death from above never came to be. Join us on the safari of a lifetime as we see animals from a time before man in a world very much like our own. Welcome to the ruling era. Welcome, dear listeners, to the Arcoscene. Hello and welcome to the expedition, and this is the Arcoscene Podcast, Episode 3, with your host, Avis Rex. Due to scheduling concerns, we will be changing our Friday explorations, and we will be letting you know when we find a different date to broadcast, so stay tuned. Today we will be discussing not a particular animal group, but instead a whole entire island in set, an archipelago. We will be discussing these due to the fact that we have already mentioned two of the animals from this project in episode 2, and also this has the most work put into it. We almost finalized it, but due to feedback from our consultants, it is back on the not cutting room floor, but you know what I mean. It is still a work in progress at this time. Today we'll be expanding on relatives and neighbors of the Geoterosaurids, and among those neighbors are birds, reptiles, mammals, invertebrates, and fish. We'll be discussing the named and the animals that have images and the most work put into them. There are more, but we have not developed them enough yet. But if you would like to see them, just head over to our Discord. Links in the description. And now then, we are going to be discussing reptiles first. In the way of lizards, Hawaii does not have a lot of them. But there is one group of animals that did raft to Hawaii, and that would be the Polyglyphanodontians. These are a group of reptiles that are extinct in our world, but still alive and well in this one. There are 3 genera across the Hawaiian Islands, and those would be the monitor lizard-like Sucopithecus, where it will go after nests, it'll go after arthropods, it'll even go after the young of the Geoterosaurids, so the adults instinctually stomp the life out of any lizard that they find. And a bunch of explorers found that out the hard way when a lizard-shaped drone was sent out to explore Hawaii. They did not get that thing back. Along with Sucopithecus is the almost chubby marine iguana-like Viridorhynchus. This thing is more... It is happy in the rivers and lakes of Hawaii and will happily go after water plants and crabs more than eggs. Another relative would be Atarhynchus. It takes Viridorhynchus's design and takes it a little bit further into the water. Whereas his Viridorhynchus will be on the lake shore chomping away at water grass. This Atarhynchus will be swimming around deeper in the lake looking for algae and worms and crabs and such further down. That, or it'll actually actively pursue fish. Um, there is one snake that is endemic to Hawaii, but it is not your typical snake. It's in fact so old that the back legs still show up. And due to its paddle like tail and its paddle like back legs, it gives kind of this trident shape in the bottom half of the animal, hence the name Poseidon tridentophus. Poseidon's trident snake. It's a more oceanic sea snake, but once in a while it could be found swimming through the freshwater ecosystems, chomping away at Vertidorhynchus, Atarhynchus, or whatever else it could fit in its mouth. In regards to more reptiles, there is the pterosaurs themselves. Wolves. The Sandvisaurids is the sister group to the Geopterosaurids, and it is here you can see the progression of these animals becoming flightless and becoming more Geopterosaurid-like. Sandvisaurids is split in half, where one half you have the flying ones, and then you have the other half of the family that is more like a weird cross between a sloth, a bird, and a monkey. It is from this group that you have the smartest pterosaur in the world, Saurosimia diogenes. The brain power that was put into adjustments in the air due to the animals being flightless now. Well, all that brain power used for flight was freed up for other things, such as complex problem solving, complexities in their calls, forming like a primitive language, and so on and so forth. These animals are the pterosaurs' equivalent of primates. They are not savants like we are, but they are still very capable of problem solving and the mirror test and so on, much like our crows. In regards to things like the mirror test with crows, if I was inaccurate in there, then my apologies. And I will gladly accept the corrections in the comments. Along with Sandvisaurids is the Geopterosaurids themselves. These are more ungulate shaped due to the fact that their ancestors were the Azhdarchids. They already kind of walk like giant giraffes anyways, so the more galloping motion of these pterosaurs was not that far of a reach for the flightless forms. With this family, we have Cervu imperator, Cervodactylus, Volcanodactylus, and Geopterosaurus itself. The other groups they have very bizarre crests. They're literally shaped almost like beaked deer in many aspects. Meanwhile, Geopterosaurus itself is more like a beaked giraffe, wandering around the lava fields and grasslands to finding pockets of trees so that they can happily graze. In regards to birds, they are not the Geopterosaurs were not the only ones to have gotten flightless. Uh, there is a group called the Chirodroforms. Your plovers, your killdeer, your snipes. But in our project, they are not called that. Due to convergent evolution, the Neoaves, the birds that those animals come from, are unable to form here. But the um, Chimelopterygryphiforms, if I pronounced that wrong, then I apologize, were around and able to evolve into these animals. So, first off, here, we have something more familiar to us, something that is kind of more chirodroform-ish. We have Longiscellus adder. It's a black-feathered, very leggy, plover-like animal that can be found across beaches of Hawaii, seeking out sand lice, worms, and small invertebrates. Therefore, it's a familiarity in a strange world. Another thing that is sort of familiar, but also not, is the mini group of Rhaphomimus and Rhaphulophus. These are basically the Arcacene's equivalent of the dodo bird. They are happy chomping on crabs or fruits, or hard-shelled nuts. And thus these things these things are very useful along the forest floor as they forage and get rid of the rotting matter. Ambulivulture is another chirodroform-like animal, but it is basically the Hawaiian Islands equivalent of the tara bird. It has a sickle-like beak used for stabbing into prey and plucking it up and swallowing it, similar to ground hornbills. A moment ago I just compared it to tara birds, but it's not that terrible, given it doesn't even come up eye to eye with us, so it's not at least a big animal. Sandvigalis sylvestris is at first glance you would confuse it for a chicken of some sort, but it's actually a ground bird from the same chirodroform-like group as the Rhaphomimus, Rhaphulophos, and Ambulivulture. Only, unlike those other three, this one still retains the ability to fly. That said, it's about as flighted as, again, a chicken. So it's more happy on the ground than it is in the sky. Here, another bird, one related to Ambulivulture, is Vulcarius ornis. This one also sickle-billed like Ambulivulture, but it is more like a kiwi. Whereas the other will happily go after the young of pterosaurs or birds. Vulcarius ornis is more like a kiwi. It'll go after worms, it'll go after insects, and if it happens to find a crab that was molting, it'll also go after that as well. Oh. There is one. There's also a bunch of different waterfowl in in Hawaii, but one in particular is probably the most comical thing in the project. Whereas you would expect for the equipment of the Dinosaur Project for the expedition, you would think the most drones destroyed would be from tyrannosaurs or raptors or mosasaurs. You know, something big, something dangerous, something you would not want to be near. And yet, the record holder for the most drones destroyed in the Dinosaur Project belongs to a duck. You heard that right. A duck. Crassosinatus gigas holds the record for destroying the most drones in the Dinosaur Project. And it hence the name the Big Fat Duck, because explorers were so frustrated with all the property destruction that they pulled an irritator. They got so frustrated with this animal that they literally turned its scientific name into a mockery. Anyone who has ran into a goose or a swan will recognize immediately why this animal is hated so much. It does not help that this flightless duck also has a bunch of quills in its wings, so every time it beats something with its wings, there's a little more oomph into it with hardened quills. Yeah, don't mess with Hawaii's ducks. Continuing on with birds, this one group of endemics from the family Furcadu is a basal group of birds from the Arbor ornithiform group. Again, part of the false neo-aves, the nova-aves in the Arcosine project. Furcadu Catapodidae is basically your swifts, your swallows, your nightjars. No, not your nightjars. Your blade-winged swift birds going after flying insects and such. And within this group is a Hawaii exclusive family called Lahaina ornithine. This is named such in honor of those who survived the Lahaina fires. And as I said, during the time of those fires, may you who all see strength and persist despite the flames. Iron does not turn into steel unless it's introduced to flame. And so, may those who survive the fires find peace, and may those who did not, may you rest well. To honor the people of Lahaina, we have 2 genera with multiple species in each. Lahaina ornis and Maui ornis. These birds flutter around Hawaii, taking in the bounty of flying insects that these islands hold. Another group of birds that could be commonly seen in Hawaii is the Hesperornithines. These are an ancient group of birds that are so old they even have teeth still in their beaks. And they are aquatic. They are flightless birds that are almost kind of like a beaked seal. Well, they only ever want to get on land to bask or lay eggs. The largest example that could be found on the island shores is Carcinocygnus, a large crab-eating, strong-jawed Hesperornithine. And the other one that is endemic to the island, actually, is Phoca avis sanviensis, the monk hesper of Hawaii. This belongs to a particularly small but social group of Hesperornithines, and these commonly can be found all across the beaches of Hawaii. We also have a few arbor ornithiforms that are not part of the Lahaina ornithines, such as Nussi fragirostrum and Pseudocorvus. Pseudocorvus is not part of the paracorvid group that I mentioned before. Instead, it is a arbor ornithid that is very much convergent with this group. The Nussi fragirostrum is it's similar to a finch. It has very long toes for an animal in this group, and it is to help better grip the branches in the forests of Hawaii. As for mammals, we do not have any mammals to our knowledge that have been capable of rafting to Hawaii, but we do have bats. Due to, well, I call it bat logic, because due to the fact that we have already found flying capable bats as far back as the Paleocene, it stands to reason that an arboreal or gliding ancestor was present already in the Cretaceous period. So whether or not that giant rock got in the way or not, right, I feel like we would have had bats either way. And thus, bats are here in the project. The group native to Hawaii is called Sanvigopteryx, and it is a rather diverse group with some strong-jawed ones going after bugs, others that go after nectar, some going for fruit. It's a very diverse genus. Now, another group that thrives in Hawaii is the invertebrates, the crabs, the crustaceans. And that basically comes to they were there first. While beetles and other animals either got swept up in storms or got there via rafting, like, for example, rotting logs could have floating along the surface could have had grubs in them, and therefore beetles, worms, centipedes, millipedes, and so on. Crabs were kind of already there. They got the head start. So we get some, like the weird stag beetle slash rhinoceros beetle looking Rhinocervus spinonicus, a rather spiky, horned, antler pincered crab that lives similarly to our beetles. You also get some freshwater species like the pond crab, free swimming in the water column of lakes for fish, for smaller invertebrates such as the Titan fairy shrimp, or maybe even wrestling with the lake shrimp. Um, Another type of crab, it's not a crab, it's more of a hermit crab, is the ammonite crab. Due to how many of these kinds of animals are in Hawaii, you're going to hear me say crab a lot. Carcinization. Woo! Ammonite crabs are so large that they could actually use ammonite shells for their shells. Titan fairy shrimp are the largest example of fairy shrimp in the project or in our world. And they actually swim along and are kind of like Hawaii's minnows, fish. While many different fish species have come in from the sea, many other animals have kind of taken up the niches of like the tetras, the smaller fish species. Stuff you usually wouldn't find in the oceans. Lava triops. No, they are not in the lava. Also take a similar role. They are found along the ocean, the lake bottoms, going after algae, small invertebrates, and so on. Lake shrimp do the same thing. Hawaiian pseudo-trilobites are an actual oddity here because they are the only northern hemisphere example of a group that we have mostly in Australia, South America, and Antarctica. Pseudo-trilobites are related to the wood lice, the roly-poly, and they are a aquatic relative that adapted to freshwater environments. Some of them also in saltwater environments too, but due to their strange anatomy, they are comparable a little bit to trilobites, and thus the name. Another type of crab in the project is I am not going to curse for this one, but it is called the poo crab. Whenever a geopterosaur goes to the bathroom, these dung beetle-like crabs will come along and feed on the matter that was dropped. Just another example of the crabs were there first, and thus they started to take niches that other animals would have normally have taken. Hawaii is just as much a land of crabs as it is a land of pterosaurs. Another few groups that are in Hawaii, for obvious reasons, are the fish. Due to the fact that many crab species were there first and already take up the niches of like tetras and so on, minnows and other small fish, they actually started to form the foundation of the food web. So other fish species that started to come in from the oceans, and some of them stuck around, started to feed on this bounty of invertebrates. One example being the dark angel guppy. At first, I did not have guppies in the project, but due to recent research that I found of two different cave guppies being related to each other, but being from two different continents, two continents that used to be together during the Cretaceous period, it would stand to reason that that close relation would correlate to them being around at the time of the Cretaceous. So, yeah, they're in the project now, and the Dark Angel Guppy is an example of one of these animals. They can be found throughout the streams, rivers, and s- slow flowing rivers and lakes of Hawaii, where they swim around and feed on the fairy shrimp, the pond crabs, and so on. A few other examples of the ocean coming into the freshwater is the anchovies. Sandvi anchovia is a freshwater endemic and can be found in the lakes and rivers of Hawaii in small schools. Um, the more visitor, they have to go back to saltwater. Um, anchovy, Arco anchovia, could also be found here, but not as common. Um, a rather comical species, the milkfish, is also here. Her milkfish are an actually very, very old group, dating back to the Cretaceous period as well. And we have some real milkfish ish in the world. They do exist. Um, Here for Hawaii, I took that to a comical extent with lactic ichthyes, rosea, and L. foscus, the strawberry and chocolate milkfish. One's pink, one's brown. Yeah, I was trying to be funny. Um, Another interesting one is the eggs of this one wasn't digested in fish or birds. Wait, no. Wasn't digested in birds, and when they went above a lake, the eggs survived, and so these animals were able to appear and thrive in these lakes. The Hawaiian bowfin. Bowfin are real fish. They are air breathers, and um, we could actually find them in the waterways of my home state in Pennsylvania. They're in the Great Lakes area, and they are also an ancient group dating back to the Cretaceous period. Um, they might even extend as far back as the Jurassic period, depending on the family. But yeah, Hawaiian bowfin is one of the weird exceptions that didn't come from the sea. He but came there through another natural means. Carcharias is a real genus, the sand tiger sharks, but Carcharias viridis is a unique one to the Arcocene. It's a freshwater sand tiger shark. It is the top predator of Hawaii's lakes and rivers. Um, and so far, that is it for Hawaii. Due to the unique nature of Hawaii, there's no non avian dinosaurs there, and thus the pterosaurs that ended up finding themselves there were able to exploit new niches that they couldn't elsewhere, and they thrived. So Hawaii just became the odd place full of flightless griffins, essentially. Madagascar is our crocodile island, and New Zealand is our island of birds, and Hawaii is our land of pterosaurs, where her giants walk on fire. That will be it for now. Oh, continue exploring, enjoy the expedition, and best of luck to you all out there. Take care.